Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. I'm back with the part 4 of my Warhammer 40,000 Codex Chaos Space Marine review. We're jumping into the next Legion, which is the Nightlords. So obviously this, the first review was many minutes, and we're going to be doing a breakdown of each one of these individually. The Nightlords, of course, are the scary torture monsters of the Chaos Space Marine Legions, and they were almost on the verge of being heretics before even a Horus Heresy happened. They're basically space pirates, made out of criminals and horrible people, and they like to scare you and also beat you up when you're already down. So they're kind of bullies. They lean into things like the Warp Talons and Raptors, fast movers, and they don't like to fight fair very much. So if dark blue with lightning stripes is your jam, and you like some bat wings, and you want to be sort of like Murder Batman on the table, the Nightlords might be for you. Their Legion trait, of course, which everybody has access to, is going to be the Terror Tactics. While you with this trait's within 9 of the enemies, you have an aura here. You're -2 leadership characteristic and -1 to combat attrition. They're just covered in other people's faces ripped off, so you don't want to be around them. Each time a model with this trait makes an attack against with a melee weapon that targets a unit below half strength when they're selected to fight, if the attack targets a unit with a leadership character, or if their leadership characteristic is 5 or less, add 1 to the wound roll. So you're +1 to wound after you've basically bullied a unit down to half strength, or if they're, just weak-willed. And then your secondaries. Now, I have gone and checked. Basically, the confusion was the chapter-approved book for Warzone Nephilim says, ignore everything in your codex. The real thing is ignore everything in your codex unless your codex is printed, after or at the Chaos Space Marine Codex, because these are identical to what's in this book. So you can't actually read your secondaries. For the Nightlords, it's Sow the Seed, Reap the Fear. If you select this objective, score 1 victory point each time one of the following happens. A unit fails a morale test, falls back, or fails an action. And you've got some ways to affect that stuff too. In addition, each time an enemy unit is destroyed by a melee attack made by a Nightlords model in your army, before removing the last model from the battlefield, roll 2d6. If the result equals or exceeds the leadership characteristic of that enemy model, score a VP. A model can, if it's resurrected for any reason, potentially contribute to this more than once. So, so basically, no cap, right? So you can go to 15 on it. There's no 13 or 14 cap by scoring. They're not super easy to do, but even custodies are going to go down to leadership 9 next to you when you're in melee with them, which is pretty legit. You're having a hard roll at 10, but you've got double down potentiality for both wiping things out and killing them. Regular Space Marines, if you manage to kill the sergeant first somehow, are going to be down to leadership of 5. So you have to hard roll a 5 after you kill them in melee, and then if they fail a morale check, which they're very likely to do, or if they fall back and shoot, which some armies just are designed to do, even knights are designed to fall back at you, then you can blow that morale check and give you an extra CP. So on the surface, it looks like it might be hard to pull off, but I feel like if you make your army a certain way, you're actually going to be able to lean into it pretty well. So a full gamut of 6 Warlord traits. The first one's the Night Hunter's Curse. You can see the future. Once per turn, you can change the result of a single advance roll, hit roll, wound roll, or saving throw made by this warlord to 6. That's pretty great. This counts as an unmodified 6 for all rules purposes. So if you want an exploding 6 to hit, if you really need a 6 to wound, and if you want to run 6, you can just do it. One piece at a time, sorry. Each time this warlord is selected to fight, after it's finished making its attacks, if any enemy models were destroyed by those attacks, but their unit was not destroyed, select one of those enemy units until the end of the next morale phase, subtract 1 from combat attrition tests. So that would stack with Terror Tactics to be -2 combat attrition, which means if you're below half, you're passing combat attritions on 5s. If you're not below half, you're passing on 4s. Each time this warlord makes a consolidation move, models in that unit can move in any direction and can do so even if they are already touching an enemy model, provided that model finishes its move within 3 of an enemy unit. So that's pretty cool. You can just move around during consolidation. That's 1 piece at a time is probably the best one to lean into Terror Tactics, and Sow the Seed, Reap the Fear. Murderous Reputation. While enemy units with obsex abilities within 6 of the warlord, you lose the ability. Oh, that's definitely something you're going to want to take as well. And then Killing Fury, if you charge or heroically intervene, you get +D3 attacks. And each time you make a melee attack, you're always considered to be in wanton slaughter, so you get 6 pluses exploding for extra hits. One with the shadows, you're -1 hit and you can't re-roll hits against you. And then Dirty Fighter. At the start of the fight phase, select an enemy unit within 3. The eligible units can't fight until after all eligible units from your army have done so. So, yeah, go last. All really good Warlord traits. One piece at a time obviously leans into this the best. Murderous Rep. Just having an aura that enemy can't be obsec within 6 of you is amazing. And the rest lean into either keeping you alive or taking advantage in the fight phase. So remember, you can unlock 2 additional Aspiring Lords to have 2 more of these. So if you want to have one piece at a time, on like your big killing guy, and then have like your baby in the background, have Murderous Rep. Murderous Rep could be something that moves around basically and pulls off OBSEC on the models you want to not have OBSEC. And then, sprinkle in another one as you like, basically. All right, stratagems. So you've got in Midnight Clad, which is your hidey-ho one. Use a stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when a Nightlord's infantry that isn't cultist is the target of a range attack. Till the end of the phase, they're -1 to hit. Just for 1 CP. They just go and hide. Sign of the Black Hunt for 1 CP. Use stratagem in your shooting phase or the fight phase when a Nightlord's core, demonkin, or a character unit from your army is selected to shoot or fight. Until the end of the phase, every time they make an attack. If the attack targets a unit below starting strength, when the attacking unit is selected to shoot or fight, or if the target's a unit that has a leadership characteristic of 5 or less, reroll hits, or 6 or less, reroll hits of 1. So, and remember, if you walk within 6 of them, or is it 9? If you walk within 9 of them, they'll be leadership 6 or less, even if they're Space Marines with a sergeant, right? They're going to 8 go down to 6. These reroll hit rolls of 1 up at close range. And if you're in melee and you're using pistol weapons, you'll reroll 1s. If the attack targets a unit that was below half strength when the attacking unit was selected to shoot or fight, or if the target has a leadership characteristic of 7 or less, you can reroll the hit roll. So basically, the worse they're getting, the more you can just reroll everything. And that's for 1, which is pretty great. Flame Alive for 1. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when the enemy warlord is destroyed by a melee attack made by a Nightlord's Heretic Astartes model. Until the end of the battle, each time a combat attrition test is taken for an enemy unit, subtract 1 from the combat attrition test. So if one of your guys kills the warlord, then or any enemy warlord, the whole enemy army is -1 combat attrition, which would again stack with terror tactics and stack with 1 piece at a time to be -3 if they're below half, -4. They're passing combat attrition on 6s. Underhand Scheming for 1 CP. Use a stratagem at the start of your charge phase. Select 1 Nightlords unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. And then from the night for 2 or 1, use a stratagem in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. Select 1 Nightlord's infantry or Nightlord's biker unit from your army that is either in strategic reserve or is a reinforcement unit that is not set up on the battlefield yet. That unit can now be set up as if the battle round was 1 higher than it currently is. You can come in turn 1 basically, regardless of the mission rules. If that unit has the Demonkin word, it's 2, otherwise it costs 1. Basically saying your Warp Talons, right, who are your better fighters, because your Warp Talons are your Deep Strikers that have Lightning Claws, or Warp Claws, which are pretty great. I mean, if you make them Nightlords, you're going to be reducing everyone's leadership. You're going to have 5 attacks each. 5 attacks each. So 5 attacks. And you're hitting on 3s, rerolling all your failed rolls to wound. You can pop that CP to have them reroll 1s, potentially reroll everything. So rerolling everything against them with, I don't know, let's say 25 attacks and a 5+ invul save. And they can't fall back from you. And you have exploding 6s. That's a shredder of a unit. Screaming Skies. Use a stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select 1 Nightlord's jump pack unit from your army and remove it from the battlefield. In the reinforcement step of your next turn, have them show up anywhere you want, not within 9. We've come for you. Use a stratagem in the start of your opponent's movement phase. Select 1 Nightlord's core, demonkin, or Nightlord's character unit from your army. Until the start of your next turn, enemy units within engagement range of that unit cannot fall back unless they have the vehicle, Titanic, or aircraft keyword, so stop people from falling back. Although you don't necessarily want to do that with Sow the Seed, Reap the Fear, because you're going to get a CP if they're, or a victory point if they do. And then I love this one, Vox Scream. Use stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select 1 enemy unit within 12 of a Nightlords unit from your army. Until the start of your next movement phase, the unit loses all of its aura abilities, but you can only do this once. So you can shut down aura abilities that remove your own OBSAC. You can shut down aura abilities that like could buff and augment units. Vox Scream could be very situationally handy. So I like the stratagems. They all feel very Nightlordsy. The only thing I don't like is there isn't a prey site. Prey site should always be in here. You put prey site in the entirety of Horus Heresy, prey site should be a stratagem. It should be just ignore cover. Ignore one unit that's Nightlords can ignore negative modifiers to hit and cover for a shooting attack. I mean, come on, guys. Prey site. It's like the thing they say. It's their, like, predator, you know, line. All right, we're into the relics. So, Claw of the Stygian Court. It's a Nightlords model with a Lightning Claw, Malefic Talon, or Cursed Weapon. This relic replaces a Lightning Claw, Malefic Talon, or Cursed Weapon and has the following profile: +2 strength, -3 AP, and 2 damage. Each time the bear fights, it makes 2 additional attacks with this weapon, and each time an attack is made with this weapon against an enemy model, that enemy model loses any rules that allow it to ignore wounds. So no 5+ wound shrugs. The Vox Demonicus. Actually, can the Claw of the Stygian Court be handed out too? Because you could give that to Warp Talons, which is very handy, and there is a give a champion a upgrade one. I just don't know if it's available to Warlord Traits. It's the Trophies of the Long War. Is Claw of the Stygian Court's in there, so you could actually give your, and does it replace a Warp Talon? Malefic Talons are cursed weapons. Do you have Malefic Talons? No, you have Warp Talons. Ah, nuts. So you could give it to a, so you can't give it to a Warp Talon, unfortunately, the Warp Talon champion, although it would be amazing on him. You could give it to Possessed, because they have Malefic Talons. That feels, oh no, they have Hideous Mutations, actually. Oh, who could you give it to? I thought they had Malefic Talons. Oh, a Demon Prince, I bet. I bet they have Malefic Talons. I bet that's who it's for. Yeah, Malefic Talons. Ah, nuts. I was really, it should be Warp Talons. You should be able to give that to, because you can specifically give it to a hero, or to a champion. So you could give it to like a Legionnaire Sergeant with Lightning Claw, but you couldn't give it to, or a Terminator Sergeant, but you couldn't give it to the Warp Talons guy. That feels like an oversight. Put it in the FAQ. Give it to the Warp Talons. That's literally the guy that should have it. Because then you'd have 8 attacks and no wound shrugs and damage 2. Yes, it should be able to be given to a Warp Talon for sure. Vox Demonicus, it's for Nightlords infantry. This relic can be given to cultists. Enemy units that are set up in the battlefield can't reinforce within 12 of them. The bearer has the following abilities: Vox Demonicus Aura. Each time an enemy unit performs an action within 12, roll 2d6. If the result's greater than the enemy's leadership, the unit cannot perform the action or psychic action. Now, I don't know if that caused it to fail. I feel like it should cause it to fail, because that's so the seed reap the fear. Each time an enemy unit attempts to perform an action or psychic action, well, yeah, they just need to make the wording fails. Because the wording is that unit cannot attempt to perform that action or psychic action. That doesn't trigger the other one. And I feel like the entire intent behind Vox Demonicus is to keep it, to have that happen. To have it fail, not to have it not be able to be performed. There you go. Second FAQ. First one, give the Warp Talons the Nightlords Claw of Stygian Court. Second thing, make the Vox Demonicus cause the action to fail. Talons of the Night Terror. Nightlords fly models only, so you jump pack guys. Each time this bar makes a normal move or advances, after it's moved, select one enemy unit that's moved across this phase and roll 1d6, subtracting 1 from the result of the enemy unit's a character. On 2+, take D3 mortal wounds. You have like a slash attack as you go by. And each time the bear finishes a charge move, select one enemy within engagement range of the bear and roll a d6. On a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So you get charge impact hits, and when you fly over, also impact hits. And then Scourging Chains. Each time the bear makes a melee attack, improve the arm penetration, give that attack by 1. And actually, could you give Nightlords Terror, Talons Nightlords as well? Or what was that? Talons of the Night Terror, sorry. You can give the Claw of the Stygian Count. You can't give Talons of the Night Terror. That feels like another good one for your Warp Talons. So sorry, Scourging Chains. Nightlords model only. Each time the bear makes a melee attack, its AP goes up by 1. And while an enemy model is in engagement range of this model, it's -1 to its attacks, because you wrap it up in chains. You do the whole like Ghost Rider flaming chain thing. Misery of the Meek. Once per battle, at the start of any phase, you can use this relic. If you do so, you get 3 wounds back, and until the end of the turn, add D3 to the bear's or attack characteristics, and 3 to its aura abilities. So you have a once per turn heal plus jack you up. I like that one. The Stormbolt plate for your Nightlords infantry. Enemy models cannot target the bear with ranged attacks unless it's within 12 of the firing model or is the close eligible target. And each time the attack is made against the bear, it's treated as being in light cover and heavy cover against the attack. So you're -1 to hit and +1 save. Flare, Nightlords model, the power sword, a cursed weapon, or 4 sword only. Actually, you give Stormbolt plate to... I would really give it to this guy, to the... I know I keep arguing on him with the Lord Discordant, but he got such a big boost that I really like him. I give it to this guy. Because then he gets the being in heavy cover, and you can't shoot him unless he's within 12. Or closest. And have him be your outrider and go run off and grab objectives. He'd be great. He'd be a great Nightlords outrider, actually. You send him off with the Scuttleblots, buy him a bunch of Venom Crawlers, and have him go scuttle around like Zoidberg. So Flare is a power sword, a cursed weapon, or 4 sword only. +2, -3, 2 damage. Each time attack is made with this weapon and it destroys an enemy model, it counts as 2 destroyed models in the next morale phase. There you go. Give him some Flare. That's good again for you want to cause combat attrition chests. Holy moly, you'd win by a lot. And there it is, Nightlords. No prey sight, fix the claws. Vox Demonicus needs to save fail. I think they're great. I think they lean into a mechanic that isn't used that much, which is morale. And they allow you to take things like Warp Talons. The problem is still going to be getting them in combat because they have to show up outside of 9. They don't have any ability to like increase their charge range really. Although there are some prayers, I think, to give you +to charge. And there might actually be a standard Warlord trait as well. No, that's a Black Legion one I'm thinking of. Lord of Terror. Although Lord of Terror is definitely something you're going to want to take. Well, within 6 of the Warlord, it's an extra d6 and discard the lowest. Yeah, you're going to want to double down on Lord of Terror. So if you're taking 3 of the Warlord traits, you're probably taking 1 piece at a time. And then someone else is taking Lord of Terror. So you have the pick the highest. And you'd be minus a bunch. And then can you get + charge from the prayers? Would it make sense to take a prayer priest to do that with? Not really. No, you get light cover, reroll hit rolls a 1, exploding 6s. No, there's nothing in there that's really going to be that helpful. Warp time doesn't even do that. It just makes you make a normal move. Yeah, not a huge list of things here that would help that. Possession, Infernal Power. And these are all Demonkin and Demon Engine ones. Cursed Earth, no. Pact of Flash, no. Although the Warp Talons are Demonkin. So you can so it actually makes sense for the Master Possession to hang out with them. Because he can give him +1 to wounds. They can regain D3 lost wounds, and if it's a core or Demonkin unit, and the unit's below, you can get a destroyed model back. I forgot the Malefic Discipline lets you bring back Warp Talons, which is cool too. Not a ton, but you give them a. If you took the Demonkin, you can give them a 4+ invulnerable save, the Cursed Earth. So a few cool combos in there. Getting them in combat is going to be a little bit hard, but you could also just have them not start like warp striking. Or try and hard roll the 9, which is always a possibility too. Raptors are cool, but not as cool as Warp Talons. If you're going to take the jump back troops, why would you just go all the way? And take the guys that, you know, they don't really have guns, but like, they have Warp Claws, and Warp Claws are great, because you're rerolling wounds. And then you jack them up with all the psych powers. Although I think actually the Cultists might even be worthwhile, because I think they get the Malefic Discipline, and I think they have... no, it's Prayers. And then the Mind Witch does... Dark Hereticus Discipline, so he doesn't do the Malefic one. Because you want Malefic to jack up all your Demonkin. But I like it. I like that they lean into the Terra mechanics. They have an interesting progressive because it's stuff that's going to happen over the course of the game, and all of your like buffs and abilities kind of like lean into it, which I think is a cool kind of combo. And they get the joke. They're the comedian. They understand how the galaxy has fallen, and that the Emperor's whole plan was a joke the whole time. So, one of my favorite thematic armies. If I wasn't already doing Iron Warriors, I'd probably play Nightlords. So, alright, big thanks for watching. We'll see you for the next one, which is Iron Warriors. Tell them to mash. Over again. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.